Oh fuck, I just hit my laptop. I'm leaving that in. Hey guys, what's up? It's Jaime here. Okay, so I was originally going to do this video and like save this video idea for like the future, but I got inspired to talk about certain things that I'm going to talk about in this video. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear the outdoor noises. I apologize, but there's really nothing I can do. Oh my god. But yeah, so I was originally going to do this video like probably like a couple weeks into the future, but I decided, you know, I want to talk about this now, so we're going to talk about it now. As you may recall in my video where I was like, hi, I'm not dead, surprisingly, actually, and like came back to YouTube essentially, right? I mentioned that I am a playwriting and screenwriting major, and I've gotten just in my personal life, generally when I tell people that I'm a playwriting and screenwriting major, they're like, oh, that's interesting, so like what do you do? And so I thought I might, is that a book on my wall? No, I'm just hallucinating apparently. Or maybe it's on my camera. I can't tell. What is this? Is this the wall? Hold on. Oh no, that's definitely my camera. I'm sorry. We're off to a great start. But yeah, so people generally ask like, okay, so like being a playwriting and screenwriting major, what does that exactly entail? So I'm gonna tell you guys about it. Also, I have my laptop here because I have like my notes written down so I don't get completely off topic. I also have a Twitch stream open just because obviously you can't hear it because it's muted, but I don't know. Fun fact, I guess. But anyway, so as the name might entail, being a playwriting and screenwriting major means I take both playwriting and screenwriting courses. Wow, who would have guessed? I know, right? Groundbreaking. But yeah, so I take playwriting and screenwriting courses. The way I've kind of done it is that I've kind of alternated, like every other semester I've like taken a playwriting course and then a screenwriting course and then a playwriting course and then a screenwriting course. So like, you get the gist. So I've taken playwriting classes, I've taken screenwriting classes, like actual like classes that's called playwriting, an actual class called screenwriting. I've also taken some other classes that are like in kind of the same realm but aren't exactly like necessarily writing classes, but they're like in the same realm. So I've taken theater histories, history of film art, intro to media studies, things like that, like classes that kind of obviously aren't exactly called like playwriting or screenwriting, but are kind of in the same realm. They're kind of, you know, related. And so, as you might imagine, for like playwriting and like a typical playwriting and screenwriting or screenwriting class is usually we like talk about a play we've read or a film we've watched, and then like share scenes that we've written that are either follow some kind of prompt or are just like whatever our brain kind of produced for that class. And yeah, sorry, I'm just going back to my notes. Okay, so next I kind of want to jump into like I guess kind of like the pros and cons of being a playwriting and screenwriting major. I would say the biggest pro, because I major in it, I love to write. I love writing. Writing is literally like my whole life. I've always wanted to be a writer ever since I was like 13, like around that age is when I was kind of like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. So obviously the big pro of being a playwriting and screenwriting major is I get to write all the time, but a con of being a playwriting and screenwriting major is that I have to write all the time. See, framing, I get to write all the time is the pro, but I have to write all the time is the con. See, framing, word choice. I don't know what just happened. I almost just like died. I think I like started to choke on my spit, but also like almost hiccuped or burped or something. I don't know what just happened. Ignore that. Ignore that sound. This video is a hot mess, but I'm leaving it all in because I'm lazy. my boyfriend says that he's gonna, background noises, that he's gonna try to help me like edit videos, but this video has to go up in like an hour, so that's not gonna happen. So you're stuck with me and all of my hot mess. Anyway, what was I talking about? Hold on, see, this is why I keep notes. Okay, yes, so to kind of dive into like what I mean by like having to write all the time, why that's, you know, a con of being a playwriting and screenwriting major. Having to write all the time can cause burnout, which is usually brought on by all the frequent deadlines and like having writer's block, which fun fact, I get a lot of writer's block, like all the time, like all the fucking time, which is not great for someone who is a writer and like does it all the time. Clearly, you might imagine that that's not really the greatest thing that could happen. And I also kind of just wanted to talk about that I'm particularly struggling with this kind of whole thing right now because I'm currently taking playwriting, and screenwriting is like my true passion. Not to say that I don't like playwriting, but it's just like playwriting is like if I had to kind of like, you know, rank them, like playwriting's here and then like screenwriting's like all the way up here. You know what I mean? Again, I don't hate playwriting, but it's more just like, it's not what I'm truly passionate about. I know there's planes in the background. I'm sorry. Nothing I can do. But yeah, playwriting is like my preferred medium. Also, this is just kind of something I wanted to kind of throw in, but like when I tell people that I'm a playwriting and screenwriting major, people tend to like only hear the playwriting part and kind of like forget that I said screenwriting. So it's always like, they're always like, oh, so like what plays are you working on? Even when, I mean right now, again, because I'm taking playwriting, obviously I'm working on like plays and stuff. But they're like, oh, like what plays do you like to write? Like what plays are you working on? Things like that. And I'm like, that's not really what I'm passionate about. Again, obviously people just don't know, and people just kind of like, again, only hear the playwriting part and kind of forego the screenwriting part. So I was talking to my dad about this like the other day, where I was like, I think I'm gonna just start telling people that I'm a screenwriting major, because at some point, oh my god, there's somebody walking by. I hope they can't hear me. My window's open, so okay, they're gone. I mean, already I feel bad because my roommates already have to put up with hearing me talk to myself, talk to a camera. So, anyway, what was I talking about? Oh yes, but yeah. So like people, just kind of tend to think that I only do playwriting when I do playwriting and screenwriting, but I want to focus on screenwriting. Later, as the further I get into the major, I will be able to like branch off and like solely focus on screenwriting. So yes, I was telling my dad, I'm like, I think I'm just gonna start introducing myself as a screenwriting major, because like people always think that like I only do playwriting, and I'm like, no. That's not what it is. And so I just kind of get tired of like having to explain it. So I think I'm just gonna start telling people I'm a screenwriting major. But yeah, so again, like I said, currently I'm taking a playwriting class. I'll be taking screenwriting class next semester, which is gonna be lots of fun. I'm very excited. Like I miss it so much. Like the first ever screenwriting class I ever took, I was like, oh yeah, like this is what I want to do forever. Like I already knew I loved screenwriting, but taking that class, I was like, oh, I'm fucking hooked. Like this is gonna be my shit forever. Like I love this. But yeah, so I guess I also just kind of wanted to talk about like why I prefer screenwriting over playwriting. So let me just dive into those reasons. So playwriting tends to kind of make me feel a little I guess the right word would be constrained, because there are a lot of inherent limitations to playwriting, because for playwriting, you're writing for a live performance, for live theater, and so there are inherent limitations that come with that, especially for someone like me, because my preferred genres that I write in are like fantasy and magical realism. Like that is my shit. Like I love that. Like that is everything to me, right? And those, again, pretty much everything I write falls into like either like one of those two categories. And so again, like that's my passion. But with playwriting, it's kind of difficult because again, you have to like be conscious of the fact that this is like a live performance, that this is like going to, and that it's like going to be in like a theater space. So like even though you can have obviously different sets, different locations within that theater, you still obviously are like working within the confines of a theater. Does that make sense? My dad gets to like hear all my writer talk, even though he doesn't always understand what I'm talking about, but I hope I'm making sense right now, because like pretty much everything I'm telling you is stuff I've already told my dad. My dad's great. He's such a good sport about listening to all my writer bullshit. But yeah, so it's just like, because my preferred genres are fantasy and magical realism, it's kind of hard, you know. I feel like this is not that hard to realize once you've like, either whether you are a theater person and you go to theater, like you go to shows, or you are like in theater, like you do shows at like your school or something like that. Like staging like something in those genres is like, it's tricky to do without it looking kind of corny, like, you know, because obviously when it's like screenwriting and it's in like a show or like a movie or whatever, obviously technology is incredible, and we are like, even though obviously people like to dog on CGI and all that shit, like a lot of times, because sometimes it still looks weird, but like for the most part I feel like technology has really come a long way, to the point where like we're able to kind of do so much more in terms of like special effects for like, again, like shows and movies and that kind of stuff, whereas again, it's not really always possible to do for like theater in a way that doesn't look, you know, like cheesy or corny or anything like that. But yeah, and so it's just like, sorry again, me looking down, I'm looking at my notes on my laptop. It's not totally impossible, but it's just hard. So maybe that's just more of a testament to me, and I'm just like not a good enough writer to do it in a way. But also there are just like some inherent limitations to like showcasing like magic powers and things like that on stage, that you don't really have those same limitations when it's like in a show or on in a movie. I'm sorry. But yeah, and just another thing that I want to touch on, which this can be like its whole other video, which I do plan to make this its own video, this subject, but as I kind of mentioned before, because like we're constantly writing all the time, it can be a lot sometimes, you know, like it's very easy to get burnt out because you're just having to constantly be pushing out like new content all the time, like new scenes, like, so that can get kind of exhausting. But obviously, you know, these are still college classes that still need grades, so it's like, it's not that we can't have kind of the deadlines, but it's just like, because sometimes the deadlines can be really frequent, it's like you're just constantly having to like, you know, push out like more like new work all the time. And you know, sometimes like your creative brain, like it just needs a break, like you need to give it a rest, because otherwise you feel like you're gonna explode if you don't, or at least that's how I feel anyway. I don't know if anybody else feels like that, but that's my take on it anyway. So that can that can feel like very frustrating at times and very draining. So it's definitely not, that's definitely a big downside to kind of doing like writing all the time. And also just a quick thing, because people always ask me, like when I tell them about my major, is like, okay, so like how do you do like grades? Because obviously like as a playwriting and screenwriting major, we don't take quizzes, we don't have tests, like we don't do grades like in that traditional sense. We usually just kind of get graded on the scenes that we do, in the sense that it's like as long as you try, you're pretty much guaranteed a good grade. Like at least so far, and maybe that's just because I've been lucky to have really good professors, no professor's like read someone's scene and like, oh, this is shit, and gives them like an F. Like that hasn't happened, thankfully. But yeah. And anyway, going back to like the frequent deadlines, sorry, I kind of feel like I'm still jumping all over the place. Hopefully this is somewhat coherent. Luckily, I have had again, like I said, very great professors who have helped me, like, help stimulate my brain when I'm stuck, and like struggling with like writer's block and stuff. And generally, they have been very, understanding if you ask them for an extension, which has been very great. But again, even still, the writer's block and the burnout can still be a lot to deal with. So it's definitely, it can get a little rough sometimes, even though again, like I love what I do, but sometimes it can just be a little too much. Like too much of anything is not a good thing, is basically the moral of the story. I have some advice actually that I've accumulated like throughout these semesters, that have kind of helped me deal with writer's block and burnout. But again, I'm gonna make like a whole separate video on that, so you'll just have to stay tuned for that. And I think the last thing I guess I wanted to touch on is, this is less about playwriting and screenwriting, but I'm also a psychology minor. So I've taken like a couple of psychology classes throughout my semesters, and I've got to say, like, I really recommend it. Like, if you are a writer, if you are planning on majoring in any kind of like creative writing, whether it's like actually being a creative writing major, or like playwriting or screenwriting or something, like minor in psychology, or at least like at the very least like take like a few psychology classes, because it really helps to give you like a better perspective and a better like understanding of like how people work and why people do the things that they do. I think it gives you a better like insight on just like humans in general. And I think it's really useful. Also, I just really love psychology, so I think it's really fun. But yeah, so that's a definite, I definitely would recommend that if that is something that you're interested in. And yeah, I think that is everything that I wanted to cover. I was trying to keep this short, but this video is still pretty long, so I apologize for that. Again, I'm pretty sure I touched on like everything I wanted to cover in this video. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.